In this video, we're going over 5 tips for AC joint pain in the bench press. So AC joint pain is actually very common in the bench press, particularly with heavy bench press. So folks that love to bench, sometimes the shoulder gets a bit irritated, and this makes bench press nearly impossible, okay? So in today's video, we're going over some strategies to allow you to keep on bench pressing when you're dealing with a little bit of AC joint pain. So tip number 1 is just going to be decreasing the load. And we do this in a variety of different ways. The first way I like to accomplish is by raising the repetitions. Let's say you go to the gym, you're supposed to be doing a 5 rep max that day. Let's not do 5 rep max, let's do 10 to 12 repetitions. What happens is that you have to decrease the load. And for a lot of folks that have AC joint pain, you end up feeling pretty dang good. Next thing we can do to decrease the load is just to slow things down a little bit. So if you're supposed to be doing a 10 rep max on a given day and you're forced to slow it down, so 1 or 2 seconds on the way down, 1 or 2 seconds on the way back up again, typically we have to reduce some of the weight on the bar. What's nice is we can still get a bit of a training effect, maybe not exactly the same as going heavy, but we can keep training and allowing this AC joint to kind of cool down and relax a little bit. Next tip is to modify your grip. So in a traditional bench press, let's say I bench with a wide grip here, my elbows are flared out quite a bit. If you watch me from the side, when I go all the way back, I run out of range of motion right about here. If I take my grip and make it narrow, now my shoulder is in more pure extension. If you watch from the side, I can actually go quite a bit further. So when we go from a very wide grip and I go all the way down to the bottom of my bench press, it may be a little bit more stress in the AC joint because we don't have as much range of motion when we're in horizontal abduction. And if I go into a narrow grip and go all the way back, now I have a little bit more range of motion. I'm not stretching the AC joint quite as much. Typically this feels a little bit better in folks that have pain. So first we're going to try an ultra wide grip for Abby. And then let's have you come in a little bit, Jake, just so you can see what's going on. But our elbows are really flared out quite a bit. All right, let's have your re-rack, and let's go a little more narrow, about shoulder width, okay? And then from here, just do a few repetitions. I want you guys just to appreciate where the elbows are now in relation to her side, okay? The last thing we'll try, we'll re-rack it. We'll keep the same grip, but let's go underhands. Flip those hands up, good. And then go ahead and unrack, and then just look how close the elbow now is to the side. So we can try a variety of different grips, see if that reduces some of the pain within the AC joint. Next tip you can try is by changing the implement. So if you go from a barbell to a dumbbell, if you watch Abby here, she can figure out whatever elbow position she wants. So she wants elbows really close to the side. If that feels great, you can work there. Going a little bit wider feels good. You have your options, okay? The other thing you can mess around with, if you have it, is a specialty bar that has a neutral grip, just like this one right here. Next tip we can try is by shortening the range of motion. We can easily do this by doing something like a floor press. So as you see, let's pause at the bottom end here, Abby. We're not going quite as deep. And for most folks with AC joint pain, it's those last few inches of range of motion that really hurt. So if we just don't go down quite as far by using something like a floor press or just pausing in this position, usually folks end up feeling pretty good. The other thing you can try is something like a board press. So naturally, if you take a board, place it right here, as you go down, it's going to limit your range of motion, and it's also a great exercise to build up your bench, right? The West Side lifters have been doing that for years and years. So if you're dealing with a lot of AC joint pain, just restricting that range of motion can be really beneficial and allow you to train without as much pain. The last thing you can do is change the RPE or the RIR, so rate of perceived exertion or reps in reserve. Largely when a lot of folks train in the gym, they're going to failure or maybe they're leaving 1 rep in the tank. We have some good research to show that if you take a couple extra reps off the tank, so working at let's say an RPE of 7 or 8 or leaving 2 to 3 reps in reserve, you have quite a bit less pain on the shoulder, but you still progress at a very similar rate from a strength and hypertrophy perspective. The last thing we try is using something called accommodating resistance. Usually it's accomplished via chains or a band looped around the barbell and attached snugly down to the floor here. So the reason why accommodating resistance is nice is because as I go down into the bench press, more and more chains go onto the floor, so there's less and less weight as I approach my chest. When I approach my chest, this is also typically where folks have the most pain, so there's less load in this painful position. And as you start to press off your chest, the higher you get, the more chains come off the floor, the more load you now have to press, okay? Usually it's nice on the AC joint. Let's watch a few repetitions so you can see what I'm talking about here. I'm just gonna unrack. As you go down, just see how the chains start to, go down to the floor. So towards the chest, we're unloaded, and then we press all the way to the top, more chains are off the ground, so it's just going to be higher. Awesome, thank you, Abby. So now you have some modifications for AC joint pain in the bench press. You still need some exercise to go with it to rehab that shoulder. I have a video in the corner. I want you to click on that and keep up with your learning.